Good evening, council members. It is 7 p.m. and you can begin the workshop portion of the meeting.
Thank you.
That's official.
That was really good. Welcome to the City of Beacon workshop. We're planning for the first 30 minutes to be having our workshop, and then we'll go into a regular city council meeting. We'll start with roll call. I see Molly and Jeff and Paloma and Amber and myself and Lee. You're online?
Yes, evening.
And we have our city administrator, Chris White. And Nick, are you with us?
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Okay, great, thank you. All right. First item on the agenda is the appointment of Felix Benitez to the position of motor equipment operator. I figured, Chris, you were going to.
Yes, so this is the last open position that we have at the Highway Department. We interviewed a number of candidates, and Felix Benitez was the most qualified and the best fit. He has been a DPW worker for the city of Middletown and had private experience doing maintenance and painting. So we thought he would be a good fit, and he would start sometime in mid-September.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
No, none from me.
Okay.
No, I appreciate he comes with some experience from his previous job and also seems to have some skills that, like all other recent hires, will be great for our city ongoing. So thank you.
And boy, do we have some painting to do.
I did clock that
one.
All right, Lee, do you have anything you'd like to share?
On this hire? No, I'm good.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the proposed local law concerning soil stabilization, which just want to double check.
And Nick can give us an overview of this. You'll recall that I had asked for this to be tabled at the last meeting because we had some last-minute information about alternative products that might be allowable. Again, I think within the context of the law, Bruce, Nick, and I agree that it gives him the latitude to waive this if somebody can really prove that that is more environmental than other alternative products. And I think, the burden will be on the applicant. Otherwise, it won't be allowed. And I would just say that we've had people talk about products that are photodegradable, and those are not biodegradable. That just means they break into smaller pieces of plastic, which eventually blow or wash into our waterways.
So thank you, Chris. So the local law, just as a matter of process, was introduced by the council, referred to the county and city planning boards for a report and recommendation. No comments received from the county planning board, recognized it was a matter of local concern. City planning board, after review, recommended it be adopted. The council held a public hearing at its meetings in August, closed that public hearing, but deferred a vote, as Chris just previously referenced. That's the process. So it is ready for a vote for tonight's meeting, should you be inclined to do so. The law itself requires that erosion control practices used for soil stabilization shall be made of natural fibers that are fully biodegradable. The question, as Chris mentioned, that came up was, is this fully mandatory? Is there a provision for something that might be not fully biodegradable, but has natural fibers or other materials that would be preferred for that particular use or otherwise required by DEC? And we examined that issue and determined that the existing language, as Chris indicated, is satisfactory to allow flexibility to allow alternate materials. The full language in the amendment provides, unless otherwise approved by the stormwater management officer or applicable municipal board, or unless otherwise required by DEC. So the law as drafted has flexibility for the situation in which it's not appropriate or there's a different, better product that is not fully biodegradable for erosion control practice for soil stabilization. So at the staff level, we're recommending that there be no further changes to the local law and that it's ready for the council's full consideration and adoption.
We lost your last sentence or two, Nick. Your audio got a little different.
Thank you, Chris. It may be me talking too quickly and not coming through clearly. So staff's recommendation is that there is no need to do any further edits to the local law and that it is ready for the council's consideration of adoption.
Much better.
Yeah, that was my question, Nick. This phrase, unless otherwise approved by the approval authority, was that in our previous draft, or is that what's new this draft?
No, that was in the existing draft.
Okay, so you kind of just want to make sure that that covered what you needed for the flexibility you mentioned.
Yes.
That is correct, yes. And after speaking with staff, this language is acceptable and serves the purpose.
All right, great. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I was looking at the short environmental assessment form, and I was reading through, and I saw there's reference to like this doesn't include those temporary soil management, I think it's referred to, sediment control measures that are ultimately removed, but I didn't see that in the law itself, and so I'm just curious, is there another part of our code that manages temporary sediment control measures?
It doesn't.
No, that is regulated by best practices and also by DEC stormwater controls and would also be included, if applicable, the stormwater pollution prevention plan. But the temporary measures are discussed and included in the site plan approval drawings. One of the site plan sheets is typically the stormwater measures that would be used.
And the reason we did the matting is that it's a permanent installation. They have no plan in the future to go and remove those materials, which is why we didn't want plastic just breaking down into smaller components and being emitted into the environment. The temporary erosion control stuff like the sediment fencing all has to be removed anyway. So it really is, it doesn't matter that is, and that can be, in some cases, that can be reused.
Great, thank you.
Just curious, on the, in the packet, the short environmental assessment form, the majority of it is not filled out? There's not check boxes completed on the majority of it? Just, was that an oversight? Or is that, doesn't seem to be an indication that you should skip those questions?
Right, so in question one, it states if it's a local law, then proceed to part two and don't answer the remaining questions. And attach a narrative description, so that's what we've done. So it's standard practice not to answer those questions and instead provide a narrative description of the local law.
But question two should be answered though, shouldn't it?
No, question two is, does the proposed action require permit approval or funding from any other governmental agency? And since this is the adoption of legislation, no other approvals are required. And the directions also insert only if no, continue to question two. So as filled out in the packet before you, it is correct.
Okay.
I had the same question, Jeff, but I went back and read the
You
instructions to
have to
educate
read it
myself.
like a number of times to go, oh,
Right,
I have
yeah,
to
yeah.
jump the rest of this form.
I agree, it looked odd that we kind of skipped the rest, so.
Yes.
I'll just say I was doing that for the benefit of the public.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask, so if a project is getting done and, you know, tree removal, and they have to put this down, this is the only thing they can put down, or they can put a temporary, they can put,
So
This
there
is
are
supposed to be
two types of
permanent.
stormwater controls. One is temporary during construction, the snow fences or the black fences that you see. That's put up to make sure that when they're disturbing the soil, if there's any runoff, it stays on site. There's also permanent stabilization when they are doing regrading, turning a flat area flat or a flat area into a sloped area or altering the slope. This addresses that later one, the permanent alteration to the grade of the slope, where you're going to want to ensure that the vegetation is stabilized, the vegetation grows and stabilizes the slope so that the dirt doesn't erode and run off of the hillside. So we're only talking about the permanent stabilization of the slopes.
So the matting gives the vegetation time to really take root, and then over time, the vegetation should hold the slope. So again, the materials they use today do degrade, they just don't biodegrade. But that, the first like 6 months is important to have that extra support. So when you get a heavy rain, everything doesn't just wash down.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Right, I think we're good. Right, and now we're on to proposed local law concerning dimensional regulations for the transitional district, which this is the public hearing for tonight also.
Right, so this local law, as a matter of process, was also referred to the city and county planning boards. The county recognized it was a matter of local concern and had no comments. The city planning board reviewed it, was in support of it, and made a recommendation. You held the public hearing at your last meeting and then kept it open so that we could make revisions to the local law reflective of the comments received from the planning board. So it is for a public hearing tonight, and can be closed if you wish to do so and voted on. The change is found in the local law, and it's it's a new sentence that was added at the end. The change we're proposing is to the schedule of dimensional regulations. In your zoning ordinance, you regulate uses that are permitted in certain zoning districts, and then if a use is permitted, you have dimensional regulations that set forth what are the dimensions of those uses that have been permitted. So in the T district, townhomes were recognized as a permitted use in that zoning district. However, the dimensional regulations for townhomes was not applied to the T district. Townhomes are also permitted in the RD zoning district, and footnote E of the dimensional regulations table provides what are those dimensional regulations for townhomes. So we took footnote E and added the T district so that it now applies, footnote E, it applies to the RD and the T district. The planning board requested that we make a further edit to provide and make it clear that townhomes can have 0 lot lines. Typically, you have side yard setbacks for buildings. Townhomes that are connected don't have setbacks because the lots of those townhomes, the walls abut one another, so they have a 0-foot setback. So the planning board said it's implicit if you allow townhomes that you're allowing 0-foot setbacks. However, could you please put that into the code? They also asked that for the end units, that the planning board have the authority to modify what that dimension is for the side yard of the last unit on the 2 ends, and make sure that they have the flexibility because it's for transitional district. So in footnote E, the sentence was added that reads, in its sole discretion, the planning board may also reduce the required side yard setback to 0 feet for subdivisions of land designed for attached or semi-attached single-family dwellings, townhomes, where appropriate, except that the minimum side yard setback for end unit dwellings shall not be reduced further than 1/2 the minimum side yard setback of the least restrictive adjoining residential district. And that language was drafted to respond to a request from the planning board, which you discussed and reviewed at your last meeting, and requested we prepare that language.
Nick, can you talk through an example of that last end of the sentence that you talked about? When it says least restrictive zoning district, does that mean the one with the smallest or the biggest side yard requirements?
Do not be reduced further than 1/2 the minimums of the least restrictive. So the least restrictive would be the
Smallest.
The smallest.
yes.
Okay. Least restrictive to the developer, essentially.
Yes, to the parcel.
Okay,
Sure.
great, to the parcel, thank you.
Is it typical that you say 1/2 of the minimum side?
I won't say it's not it's typical, but it's what was discussed with the planning board when Jennifer Gray had conversations with them. And I don't know if that's what they've done in other districts where you had, I would have to speak to her.
Right, but it is consistent with wanting to encourage housing and density.
Correct, and also recognizing the transitional district, that you're moving from one district to the other, so you're gonna have a varying setback, not the same as the district in which it's moving from or adjacent to. And so this is on for the public hearing at your meeting tonight.
And I know, Nick, I've asked this every single time. I'm going to ask it again. If we look at the table that's part of this, if this passes, that footnote E will be added to the T zoning district. Is that what we're voting on tonight?
Yes, I would rephrase it and say that the T district will be added to footnote E. The same as you're saying, but the footnote E will exist, already exist in the table. We're just modifying it to include the T district.
Okay.
Right now, it just says the RD district.
And will the little e superscript be next to the T, above where the note section is in the table?
That is correct, yes. And section 1 of the local law states that the schedule of dimensional regulations is hereby amended to add footnote E to the T zoning district column.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Well, if there's no other questions, that's the end of our workshop.
Okay. Are we allowed to move into our meeting?
You are. The meeting was noticed that the council would immediately move to a regular meeting after conclusion of its work session.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can do the call to order and the pledge and that.
Yes.
And you can
Okay.
use the hammer if you want.
I've used
We
it.
thought,
Less stressful if I bang it right now. I guess I will.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mercedes.
All right. We are going to call to order the city council meeting for September 3rd. First, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we will do our roll call again. I see we have Molly and Jeff, Paloma, Amber, myself, and Lee is online. And
How do you do?
And we also have our city administrator, Chris White, and Nick is online with us also. All right, we will start with public comment. The public can make any comment for up to 3 minutes as long as it is not part of the discussion for the public hearing. So we have, the first person is Meg Lazaros.
Hi, my name is Meg Lazarus, Ward 1 resident, member of Beacon Climate Action Now and the Beacon Bicycle Coalition. As some of you already know, the Beacon Bicycle Coalition is a growing group of residents looking for ways to create safe, accessible, and fun biking opportunities in the city for all ages. Shout out to Mayor Lee and Councilmember Paloma for joining us on our most recent ride. So back in March of 2023, my contribution to the City Council Community Quarterly to have the city commit to a timeline on a citywide bike plan ranked second by Beacon residents. I was assigned to a council member, which was back then Ren Longno, and I started trying to figure out how to move this idea forward. It became almost immediately clear that this was not a fringe idea by any means. There was no shortage of folks who I was told to meet with, no shortage of people who were willing to volunteer their time to the cause. So many people expressed interest in the idea, and there's countless residents who are passionate about biking and also bike safety. So many people in this city both love to ride, but also see the lack of bike infrastructure for what it is, an equity issue. As the demographics of Beacon change, I can't stress enough how important bike infrastructure will be in keeping the city accessible for all. When I started to dive into what had already been done in the city around bike lanes, I had found that there was lots of discussions, and even in one instance, an entire grant application created and submitted for a bike and pedestrian master plan for Beacon. I poured through many city documents, so many of which mentioned recommendations for bike lanes for transportation and to meet city and state climate goals, and a strong desire from residents for bike lanes. Some of the documents I'm referring to are the 2017 City of Beacon Comprehensive Plan Update, the 2023 Main Street Access Committee recommendations, the Beacon Open Space Inventory Survey results, the Beacon Complete Streets Analysis, and the Beacon Natural Resources Inventory, among others. I was excited to hear that there was a Fishkill Avenue committee appointed by our mayor to think about what this parcel of land could look like 10, 20, 30 years out. I've recently heard that some of our local officials don't see the need for bike lanes. I'd like to challenge that idea. You might not see swarms of cyclists around the city, but that's not because there's not a want or need. It's a bit of a if you build it, they will come situation. You're not seeing the need because people don't feel safe riding in this city. It's really as simple as that. It's the #1 conversation I have with most people who show up to our events. I know the Fishkill Avenue Committee is still in meetings and thinking through their recommendations, but regardless of this, I would urge City Council to always think about feasibility of bike lanes whenever there's a new project like this one in front of you. Beacon is only going to grow and become more dense, so let's save time, money, hassle by putting
15 seconds
in
remaining.
place the infrastructure today that we'll desperately need tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. It doesn't look like we have anybody else in the audience. Is there anyone online who would like to make a public comment?
You have no one online?
No one online? Okay. All right, we will move into our public hearing, which is public hearing for a proposed local law concerning dimensional regulations for the transitional district. And Nick, I know we just discussed it, but can you?
Yes, I'll give a brief overview. This is the continuation of a public hearing on a proposed amendment to the zoning district, specifically amending the scheduled dimensional regulations for the T district. There is an existing language in the schedule, footnote E, that applies to the RD district, and it pertains to townhomes, and it allows townhomes which are permitted use in both the T and the RD district. This note E sets forth the dimensional regulations for townhomes. And so the local law amends footnote E to have it apply to the T district, where townhomes are permitted district, and then grants the planning board flexibility in establishing what the lot line setbacks will be for townhomes in the T district. And this was referred to the city and county planning boards. County planning board said it was a matter of local concern with no comments, and the city planning board recommended the law be adopted and made a comment that resulted in the amendment that we discussed at the work session, which added the last sentence of footnote E as new language.
Thank you. I don't think I've done a public hearing before. If anybody would, from the public, would like to make a comment? Are we ready for that? Okay.
Yes, you just open the public.
Yeah, open the public hearing if anybody would like to make a comment, or do we need to have a motion to open the public hearing?
No motion needed because you've noticed this hearing. You don't need any motion if you wanted to adjourn it or close it.
Okay, thank you. So if anybody'd like to make a comment, it doesn't look like anybody in the public would like to make a comment.
We're looking at you, Meg.
And you have no one
And
online.
we have no one online.
Really,
Okay.
really counting on her.
So if the council wishes, it would then be appropriate to consider a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close the hearing on the transitional zone dimensional requirements.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, make a
Aye.
motion aye? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
You have to check the, yeah.
Yeah, there you are. All right, so we are going to close the public hearing. Now it's on to reports. We'll start with Molly.
Sure. So for those who participate in the Beacon Public Schools, or maybe also local school districts, tomorrow is the first day of school, so I hope everyone going back to school and parents with children going back to school and teachers and other staff enjoy their time. A quick note that this will mean that if you happen to be a commuter roughly between the hours of 7:30 and 9 a.m. on Beacon roads, or more like 9:30, this means the roads will be a lot busier than you might have been used to over the summer, so just make note that your commute through Beacon might take longer, and I appreciate it might take some adjustment for all of us to get used to a lot more people and individuals on the roads as we all adjust back to the school year. I also wanted to note that I'm not sure if the Spirit of Beacon Day community will be coming, or the board will be coming to us, but just for those who don't already know in the public, it is coming later, the end of this month, Sunday, September 29th. There'll be a parade at 1 p.m., and then there'll be activities starting before and particularly after that into the afternoon. So I'm not sure if we're going to hear directly from the committee at some point this month, but even if we don't, you can definitely check them out online as well to find out more about that. And their theme is unity in the community this year, so I hope everyone who wants to has a chance to come out. And then lastly, kind of piggybacking on what Meg brought up, I know that, and Mayor, I'm not sure if you have any updates on this, but we've had the Fishkill Avenue Committee meeting for several months now, and I'd just love to hear if there's an opportunity for, I know that they've been gathering public input and there's been time, but if they're yet ready to bring something to the council to kind of discuss where they are, or to have kind of a wider public input session. That was kind of a structure that had been discussed. I'm not sure if that's how their structure ended up continuing as well, so we'd just love to hear more about if this year there'll be anything more to do with that the public can get involved with. And with that, I will pass it to Jeff.
Thanks, Molly. On the heels of school starting, on more activity on the roadways, I'll repeat my call for bike helmets. See a lot of great bikers out there, particularly those on electric bikes, and I do see there is a lot of actually public awareness now about the accidents that are happening with folks on electric bikes, e-bikes, and not wearing helmets. So please do wear your helmets and keep an eye out for affordable and safe options. So contact me if you want more information. In the spirit of contacting me, I'm going to hold my office hours. I'll share this with Ben, but on Friday, September 27th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Bank Square Coffee House. And I'm excited. I shared with my fellow council members and the mayor and our administrator a survey, 2 surveys actually, that's going to be posted to the city council webpage within a couple of weeks. One is for people who live in Beacon, whether you're a homeowner or rent, or your children go to school in Beacon, and one for business owners, so people who run businesses in Beacon. It's an additional feedback mechanism. It's not designed to be a scientifically, statistically valid survey. It's just an additional way for folks to contact us, share their thoughts on a number of topics. It's not an exhaustive survey. It's less than 10 questions. It will be updated probably a couple of times a year to maybe have some specific questions on topics of interest. But feedback on what you'd like to change, what's a top issue, what's some ideas to address some of these issues are part of the survey. Again, 2 surveys, one for folks living in Beacon or whose kids go to school in Beacon, one for business owners, and both will be available in Spanish as well. And with that, I'll pass it over to Paloma.
Thank you, Jeff, and thanks for putting together that survey. I'm looking forward to hearing the results. You'll also be happy to hear I wore a helmet when I rode my bike with the Bicycle Coalition the other day. Also, to piggyback on the note of Beacon schools resuming tomorrow, I wanted to make a request, Chris, whenever you have a moment or whenever bandwidth allows, for an update on the progress on last year's approved participatory budgeting projects from our high school seniors. I'm looking forward to resuming that again at some point this fall. And also, Chris, thank you for putting together on the website that sort of one-stop shop information page for more information about the Fishkill-Teller Avenue project. For members of the public, it has the full scope of the approved technical plans, as well as some context and photos of the progress that's going on. It's very informative, and I think really illustrates the full scope of the project and the work that's going on there. And finally, I'll just say that my open office hours are this coming Sunday, September 8th, from 4 to 6 p.m. I'll be at Memorial Park in the pavilion by the restrooms. Happy to speak more about promoting safe biking or any other topics that are on people's minds.
All right, thanks, Pam. I will be brief. Thank you, Chris, for responding to the question about the South Avenue courts. I did get a concern about some of the litter, so I would just remind everybody at all of our parks to kind of carry in, carry out, or use the trash cans, please, and keep them nice for everybody in the community, and hopefully that helps everybody enjoy them more. The only comment, I did want to comment on the bike lanes. I'm interested in seeing what's going on with the Fishkill Committee, but some of the other commentary I've heard from the community is about the plans we have with the sidewalk extensions and if those allow for future bike lane or other expansion. So I would kind of recommend maybe just an overall update on what our plan is for that sidewalk extension that's above and beyond what was approved for Fishkill and Teller, and whether there is future viability with those plans for bike lanes. I don't think people are asking for those now, but just is it something we could support in the future? And I will also let folks know I got my postcard about the water quality. This is a really interesting report every year that comes out. It's about 10, 12 pages or so. So take a look at it. There's a lot of really great information about our water, and my appreciation to our water department and the water treatment for all the great work that they do.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the school starting this week. Just with all this construction of the sidewalks, especially near Rombout and the high school, walking distance, again, drivers, just be patient, take another patient sip of coffee that morning or something, because the children, they may be not crossing, just confused where they need to go on sidewalks. So just really be careful, drive slow, and really watch out for anyone walking or biking on their way to school. The only other thing I was going to announce is next Wednesday, September 11th at 6:30 p.m., the Elks Lodge will be having a commemorative ceremony for 9/11. I'm sure that all can attend. And then the only other, with the bike lanes, is there any way we can get a report on the county of where they are in discussions of the feasibility with the rail trail? If that is a way that we could work on trying to incorporate some of the bike lanes that we're looking for. And then, I lied, there's one other thing. Someone for South Avenue, the tennis courts, were asking about the cracks and if those are going to be sealed. I couldn't remember if there was the project to replace the courts, but they were right in the court themselves. So if someone could look at those, thank you.
I'll respond in my report.
Okay.
To everyone. Why don't you throw something in to Lee? So.
Yeah.
Lee,
your turn.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. As Paloma and the one public speaker said, a couple of us from council were able to go on a bike ride, which was actually pleasant. I've actually spent a lot of time both riding and walking on the Fishkill Avenue area, just because, trying to understand exactly the facts on the ground. I, think that the clear home run is the combination of the rail trail and the Hudson Highland Fjord Trail, because that provides this backbone of a bike trail system completely separate from the road, completely safe, and connecting all the way to Cold Spring, and soon at some point all the way to Fishkill and the Canadian border and Buffalo, right? So, how we get there in the meantime will take some doing. I know the Fishkill Avenue Committee is working on stuff. They'll be ready when they're ready. We're just encouraging them to take their time and to look at a number of factors. Along the way, there's probably going to be other things that we're going to be doing. One of the discussions I want to have, and I've already reached out to the Hudson Howland Fjord Trail folks, is, now that they're starting to view Beacon as a sooner rather than later portion of their construction effort, what that might entail in Beacon and what pieces of the puzzle they might be able to help us with. We've also been in discussions with our United States Senator's office about funding opportunities that might include, helping build out some of this. I will stop there and let Chris continue in terms of where we are on the road project, what things we will and get done, what things we absolutely have to get done for our funding purposes. And I'll stop there. Thank you all for letting me be remote.
Thanks, Lee.
Okay. In response to some of the questions raised, the courts at South Avenue are going to be fully renovated. So the surface will be new and those cracks will be remedied. That we're expecting now to take place in the spring, and you may have seen the other day, we did have a well driller over there, or some type of machine trying to ascertain the compaction where we're going to put the new bathroom, which is between the two courts, closer to the basketball courts. So that is in progress. Let's see, what was the other thing? Oh, I did want to note, Deanne Imar Blair was excused tonight. We didn't mention that.
Yes, sorry.
On Fishkill Teller Avenue, we're already doing the replacement. You may recall we truncated the project at Blackburn Avenue last year when the bids came in high. We do have some leftover transportation money that can go for those sidewalks, and I'm trying to now negotiate with the contractor to see how far we can get, and I'm not clear yet how far we can get. Nothing that we're doing, which is on the north side, would preclude work on the south side. There's no curbing being put in, so the things that had been put in the original plan to make that side, that south side, which is on the creek side, have all curbs and little medians, all of that is not in the project anymore. So you have essentially a clean slate on the south side. I do want to thank all of our residents for their patience as we get through these major capital projects. We just finished up, Central Hudson is done with their gas line replacement, which was creating havoc. We honestly couldn't, it became quite hard to navigate, and we apologize for that. They are done for the year. We have put the speed humps in on Wilk Street in advance of school opening. We have also ensured that there's a clear sidewalk route to school, so that should be open. I also want to note the city did not close the road on Fishkill Avenue, that it was closed by people who thought it would be funny to take our cones and our barrels and put them in the middle of the street. So we now have rectified that by having patrols go through several times a night to make sure that that doesn't recur, but we did not do that. On the water report, I just want to note that we've already queued up that we're going to have a QR code on that next year and a shorter URL.
I was over here typing it in, and I was like, this is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So again, we get better each year, hopefully. I wanted to let folks know the stairwell outside City Hall that is well used is being demolished starting tomorrow and then rebuilt. And so ADA curb ramps are going on throughout the city. Washington Avenue wing wall will be starting shortly. I'm happy to report the We Play playground area is finally done. The two vendors who were responsible for the job will not be working in Beacon again. and they really let us down. This was supposed to be opened in April. I give Mark Price and his staff a lot of credit for landing the plane on this, because they basically had to go around the contractor and go all the disparate pieces of it together. So benches are still on order, but the fence is in, the rubberized surface is done, and I was over and it looks great. And I think I got everybody's questions, but if I missed any, let me know.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will go on to local laws and resolution. Resolution number 92, appointing Felix Benitez to the position of motor equipment operation.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
thank you.
Can I get the motion and second again? Who?
Amber
and
is the
Holly.
motion.
Thank you.
All right, so this is going to be Chris discussing this. Or do we just need to?
Oh, I thought you just voted on it.
We did vote on Felix Benitez.
So the motion is carried, so resolution number 92 is being adopted, and you're ready to proceed to discuss resolution number 93.
That's okay. Felix is a good guy.
Okay.
You're good.
I don't think there was any discussion on the appointment, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So we can
That's-
move on. I
that's
think
what I
the
thought,
soil
too.
one is maybe the next one.
We just want to get him painting as soon as possible.
Yes,
That's
there's brushes and cans in Chris's office.
A little rusty.
Lots of photos,
Always
too.
rusty. All right. Well, congratulations, Felix.
Welcome to the team.
Welcome to City of Beacon. The second resolution number 93, adopting local law number 7 of 2024 concerning soil stabilization. Do I have a
Motion?
motion?
Second from Amber.
Thank you.
Okay, this is to adopt it and approve it.
Right.
Would you like a brief explanation of the law?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a
Sure.
discussion after we make the motion, and then
Yeah.
we'll have a vote when everybody is
Okay.
satisfied.
All right, so we have to say yes to opening it?
No, you're good.
We're good,
You've
'cause
done
we
that.
got our
The-
motion.
The
Okay.
motion puts it on the table.
Okay,
Yeah.
Motion and second.
I apologize.
No, you got it.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
doing
Good.
awesome.
All right,
So the-
discussion.
You got it.
Was Nick going to quickly summarize the law for the public?
Sure, I can
Nick,
do
in
so.
23
So
words or less.
Yeah. You got this.
this is, well, not 3 words or less. This is a local law that will require that soil stabilization practices, erosion control practice for soil stabilization be of fully biodegradable materials unless otherwise determined by the planning board or the erosion control, stormwater management officer. 12 words.
Yeah, that was
Great.
37.
Thank you. And now I need a motion to.
No, you have a motion.
You already have a
also.
motion. We can
have
just
a
vote.
motion, So we
Yep.
just have to vote. Okay.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
So I would just say, I think that allowing the discretion of the building department head is the right way to kind of look at the problem, because there's going to be other options in the future, and we don't want to keep legislating. So I think this is set up the correct way.
I agree. Yes. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Got
that
me.
is all of us. Thank you. Now we're on to resolution number 94, adopting local law number 8 of 2024 concerning dimensional regulations for the transitional district.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, great, so that opens
So
discussion.
Deputy Mayor, this
Who's gonna
local
give a
law
summary?
was discussed at the workshop as well as at the public hearing that was closed this evening, so I'll be brief. It amends the schedule of dimensional regulations to allow townhome dimensional regulations set forth in footnote E to the table to also apply to the T zoning district as well as the existing application to the RD zoning district.
All right, any discussion?
Nope.
All right. We ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Lee?
Yep, aye, thank you.
Aye. All right, that is all of us in favor. All right, now we're on to approval of minutes for August 19th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I have no comments actually on the minutes. They seemed fine by my glance.
That's
so.
good, because Ben's not here tonight.
They're just going to be as is.
All
So.
right.
All right, can I have a vote all in favor of approving the minutes from August 19th?
Did we have a motion?
Yes.
Yes,
Molly motioned, I second.
Thanks, sorry.
And then, sorry, Pam, you were asking for a vote.
Vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes for August 19th, 2024?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Lee?
Aye,
Aye.
aye, thank
All
you.
are in favor. Now is our second opportunity for public comments, but seeing there's no one in the public who's already spoken, and there's
No one
nobody online, we will just announce that our next workshop is September 9th, 2024 at 7 o'clock p.m. next Monday. This is our first meeting that it'll just be a workshop. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn for
Motion.
tonight.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Thank you. All are in favor.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Great
and have a
Thanks,
great night.
Pam.
Thank you,
Good
Pam.
night.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome. Good night.